Hi, everybody. I am Todd Simmons. I'm the Executive Director of Jefferson Performing Arts Society, and I am very excited today to be talking to Anthony Laciura, who is our director for the upcoming show of A Comedy of Tenors. Tony, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Where to start with a career of yours? Let's start with the pandemic, which we're slowly starting to come out of after a year. And what have you done for the past year?
The past year I have taught at home on the, either Zoom or FaceTime or Skype, and managed to do, I have a foundation called the Anthony Laciura Foundation for the Arts, and it is primarily set up for dramatic voices, how and where they can go to get experience. And we were doing a lot of live things. However, in the pandemic, we had to change things, and still we did intensive workshops, master classes. So we kept alive, and at the same time were able, by some miracle, to charge accordingly. Especially in the beginning was very difficult. People were not getting funds. And then when they were, but even so, they put money away because they wanted to work with our faculty, the people that we have, working and educating them. So it's paid off, many of which have, even during this, they got work, not being even on stage. However, I have big plans for this. So that's what we did between meetings for that, and then just 3 months ago preparing for this, to come home to do Comedy of Tenors. And so it's been very busy. It's been very busy for me.
I want to ask just about that. How do you feel people have been able to keep up singers in this time of not being able to sing?
Very difficult. What I tried to explain and to encourage was, now is the time to study. Now is the time to hone your technique, so that as soon as it's over, you're ready to go right back on stage, because this is what I'm preparing. I'm preparing for next summer a full opera on stage, and pray God, with the support, we'll have an orchestra and we'll have real costumes and the real set and all the things that big people have. It will still be paid, but they will still pay something. But our hope is we have enough finances or support a singer so that we can give a substantial scholarship. We don't really give scholarships, but we can say the tuition will be X amount of dollars instead of what it was. Mm-hmm. So that would be a nice goal. I don't think any program of our, because we're not an opera company.
Right.
So it will be paid to perform, but where are you paying to perform? New York, all the agents are there, the managements are there, they get headshots. They get a video of their performances, all of this that they need for their package, and we work on their resume.
It's great.
So it really works kind of nice. I've had my managing director, Lorraine Helvick, she's a godsend, and then I have my assistant stage director and a stage manager. Ki-moon Kim is a young man I taught at New Jersey City University. He came from Korea to work with me, to study and to assist me in opera workshop, and he's been invaluable. He's like radar in MASH, and he just knows exactly what. It's just phenomenal. So
it's lucky then.
Oh, very lucky.
Well, you just mentioned a minute ago that you are coming back home.
Yeah.
So as a local person, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you wanted to be when you were little?
This.
Yes.
I wanted to have, it was funny because when I was 10, I began at 10 studying with Charles Paddock. At 11, I did made an opera debut here in New Orleans, so in the role of the street urchin in Charpentier's Louise, with Norman Trago, Dorothy Kirsten, Marietta Cosenza, Renato Cellini, so that's how long ago that was. That's quite a while. That's 60 years ago. And when people would ask me, with my father next to me, He'd say, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, oh, I'm going to be an opera singer, and I will sing at the Metropolitan Opera. I will go to Loyola. I will finish Loyola, and that's right. I'll either go to New York or I'll go to Italy. So most of those things came to pass. After Loyola, I didn't leave. I stayed because I knew in my head I was not ready technically yet. I mean, I just was. I needed, in my soul, heart and soul. So, fortunately for me, it worked out that I met Frank Monachino and did summer lyric theater, and that he offered me a full ride for graduate school to get a Master of Fine Arts. So that's what I did at Tulane, and then in '79, we left, and we've been in New York ever since. And this building, 27 years at the Metropolitan Opera, close to 900 performances at the Metropolitan Opera. And then I got blessed with doing Eddie Kessler in Boardwalk Empire, out of, the clear blue. And then I started directing a lot of operas, different places in New York and all around town. And now I'm here through Dennis's brilliance to finally come to New Orleans, back home, to direct a production. And I'm thrilled about it.
That's wonderful to have you here. A couple of questions on that. Now, at the Met, do you have one performance that you feel is your favorite one that you did there?
Yeah, probably two. But I'll say The Simpleton and Boris Godunov, and The Four Servants in the Tales of Hoffmann. Those were, but then, you create. The Italians remember me doing Spoletta in the Zeffirelli production. Laciura! Laciura! Spoletta! They remember that. It's kind of nice because, so when you're working, you find ways to create a character so that in directing, you do the same thing, but you're doing it for someone else. Mm-hmm. You feel it, no matter how it looks when you do it, the exact same thing will look different on your actor, your singer, So it's not like, well, he's copying. No, he's not. He's putting his own individual personality into that. So essentially, I just told you how I direct.
That was going to be my next question from that.
When it's opera, I go strictly with the music.
Mm-hmm.
When it's a romantic thing, it's very romantic. I enjoy doing that. And then it all works, but I like that it comes from inside and have a lot of life, to make it exciting so that people will laugh or cry or whatever it is but they will also feel the emotion that carries over the footlights, past the orchestra, or in our case, no orchestra, but past the covered orchestra into the theater.
Do you think that there's a difference between, you've done opera, you've done television, you've done Broadway. Do you think there's a difference in the acting between the three?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Opera's a little exaggerated, slightly, but it doesn't have to be. But that's what's considered. Whereas theater, live theater, is exaggerated to filmmakers. So when you're a musical comedy person, you're giving this stuff. Wow. Well, you don't do that on film because first season in Boardwalk, one of the writers said, Anthony, can you come over here for a minute? I said, sure. He said, may I tell you something? I said, of course. He said, you're not at the Met. You see that camera? That's your audience. It's just the camera. You don't have to do anything, especially you with your faces and things. Just react. That was it. At first I was a little taken aback and I thought, oh my God, yes. Martin Scorsese gives you a lot of freedom, ad-libbing. A lot of the stuff I did for the pilot was ad-lib.
Really?
And it was so much fun, and he laughed and they laughed. It was good. But the problem with that is that sometimes you start to carry it further. Of course I did. So to hone it back, he says, because here's the problem. you don't want to let your performance end up on the floor and then be cut. Say, man, absolutely. So that was a great learning experience for me.
That. And with your roles that you did on stage specifically, you have, I think, your variety. You had such a wide range of repertoire
So
for
great.
kinds of characters.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing you didn't do.
Pretty much. It was all great, you know. But every actor has that certain little thread, you know. And when people know you, I knew it was you on Boardwalk Empire. I knew it was you doing Mima. Even with all that makeup on, I knew you were Spallanzani. I did Spallanzani as well in Hoffman. Because there's an attitude, there's something about either the shoulders or a head turn that creeps into every character. But I always try to think of, if I were Peter Gennaccio and a hunchback, if I were that person, how would I feel? It's the same thing with Monostatos. Here we have a prince who becomes the prince of slaves and wants to get in love with Pamina, but he can't have it. And he even says, why? Why am I so ugly? Am I, you know, so it's not all silly, but there's depth to it in a sense. So yes, I try to take the stock characters, try to do a little depth. And why? Because I get bored. I want it to be interesting for each performance, because I had always to remember that opening night was opening night for those people, and then the second performance is opening night for those audience members, and the third performance, as we go. A couple people come back, but it's like an opening night every night. And now they're paying so much at the Metropolitan Opera for a ticket. It seems, I just always felt, I'm here to service, I'm an entertainer, and I'm here to let you have a good time, and you're paying me for that. So I don't want to go in, well, I'll just fluff off here or fluff off there. No, I'd rather cancel than that.
Right.
And I have. So that's been important, that rapport with the audience.
Right. Let's transition to directing, and specifically the show here.
Oh,
How do you take what you've done and put it in here with a whole lot of tenors, and how do you let people connect with a show that many people don't know?
well, this show is really a Moliere play in a sense. The obvious things is the doors, and every time a door opens and closes, it's slammed. One comes in, one goes in, done that. So it's all this timing. Boom, boom, boom. This one leaves, boom, the door closes. Then I read it and read it and read it. I saw Lend Me a Tenor, this being the sequel, which of course, as we know, stands on its own. You do not have to have seen Lend Me a Tenor. But now we have the benefit of the more mature Tito Merelli and the young tenor, the new hot thing on the stage, on stage and in the circuit, Carlo Nucci, and this little thing like I hate him. Why? Because maybe it's time you think about, maybe you're going to have grandchildren, or maybe it's time you think about maybe teaching in Italy, but sort of getting away, slowing down from the career. So you have that surrounded by the Marx Brothers and Carol Burnett and sitcoms, old-time sitcoms, old-time radio shows, people popping in that you was, why did this person come in? Because he did, or because the director said that. Is the kitchen sink going to come in? Who knows? You know, it's all these kind of, yet it takes place in 1936. We have a brilliant set designer, a brilliant costume designer, too. It's going to be a beautiful show with a lot of shenanigans and a little risque, rather, for the audience. Oh, some of that stuff, but it's all, I've added more music. I've added Tito singing things that, you know, and his emotion and how he's feeling, he comes in singing something or other that the audience, the opera audience goers will understand. The non-opera audience will just take it that that's what you do, and because he's an opera tenor.
Right.
As I said, it's not a play, it's not an opera. It's just a play about opera tenors, but it's in the same sentence, it's everyday natural life that's happening, except it goes a little bit over because these people, as you well know, and as many of our audience will know, they don't stop being the tenor in real life. Going to New Orleans hamburgers and seafood, they're still this. What's looking around it? Well, let's sit at this table. Oh, you have to order first. No one comes to my table to take my order? No, Maestro, you have to go. Oh, well, all right. It's still sort of that at that period in 1936, where the great performers were still. We have this wonderful character of the Russian prima donna, Tatiana Rasson, and her entrance is exactly that. She's on stage, and they're always on stage. So that's it. The young people, the contrast is so wonderful because they're not on stage. He's learning, but he's not really, the old school. So, and the girl, Mimi, Tito's daughter, and the girlfriend of Carlo Nucci, and in the beginning we see in the script, young man, because they don't know it's the young boy that she's in love with. It's incredibly confusing.
How operatic.
But it's how operatic. But it's nothing to do with like Trovatore. It's not nearly that confusing. But again, it's not an opera, ladies and gentlemen. It's about opera tenors. It's not even about opera.
Do you think comedy right now, exactly right now, is more important than ever before?
I think so. I really do. Let's go back to the singers these young singers now not being able to perform, all performers for that matter. You go crazy. When Dennis called me and said, I like it, I said, I'm coming. Well, I read the script first. We talked. I said, no, this is my kind of show. This is what I do. This is El Capitan of John Philip Sousa. This is my kind of stuff. So I said, yes. And the main reason was I could get out of New York after a year, not having students in my house, all of that, not being able to do whatever you want. And now I can come here to create. It's the same for these young singers. They're bouncing off the wall. Yes, but even so. So to laugh, yes, this is dated material. It is. But a lot of the stuff is it's a sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Gary Marshall sitcom.
Right.
In many facets. And so I was blessed to work with all of these great, great directors, both in film and in the opera. And you got to see, and I got to balance and to see what kind of movement. There's so many different movements, what you do with your hands, or that turn. Where do you need that turn? It's easier directing opera in a sense because the music tells you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here, you're trying to hear the music in the dialogue, so that it's not so choppy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're trying, and they're all working at making that beautiful line, so that it's not like this, but it's like this, smooth. Tito, what's the matter you? How come you don't understand? You got a hard head, eh? So it's not Tito. What's the matter you? Because the Italians don't speak, like that. Che cosa fai? Allora, totti. Come va? So it's, we're trying to do it that way. And it's turned out to have a lot of accents.
Apropos.
Yes. The producer has a German accent.
Okay, yeah, well, of course.
Henry Saunders, and our guy, Carlo Nucci, he comes from Brooklyn, so he talks like this. He got a Brooklyn accent.
Mhm.
It's so fun. I love this. I'm enjoying myself. It almost seems wrong that I'm enjoying myself so
I don't think
much.
there's anything wrong with that.
And I have such a wonderful cast that respond.
Mhm.
You know, our tech crew, my stage manager. I mean, it's. I couldn't tell you how happy. The only regret I have is that I'm on a keto diet and I can't have French bread.
Oh no, in New Orleans. Too.
But it's not so bad because there's seafood, you know, and then there's still Ruth's Steakhouse. So there's still, you know, I had a beautiful piece of fish today for lunch and a display of vegetables. That was good. Over there was soft ice cream. I was dying for soft ice cream.
Oh.
But I didn't do it. I was a good boy because I'm preparing for Easter. I have some wonderful friends, close friends coming in, and we couldn't get to Commands, but we're going to Broussard's. And we'll have Easter there, dinner, and who knows what's after. And then St. Joseph, of course, the year of St. Joseph by the Pope, and the patron of New Orleans.
Right.
Rob Wagner has organized a wonderful concert after the Mass at St. Joseph's. So on the 19th, I think. Yeah, is that a Saturday?
And
I don't exactly know, but there's going to be a fantastic Mass. And then this fantastic concert with Bellini, the music of Bellini. It's going to be with his students.
yeah.
And I think it's going to be very enjoyable. And then who knows what happens after.
And that was one of the joys of New Orleans. And there's always something. Well, last year not so much, but
Right, yes.
you know,
But
going
now-
forward.
Yeah, but now coming forward, people are starting, the little eggs are cracking and we're being reborn. Perfect timing.
Perfect
you know.
timing. Perfect
Yeah,
timing.
one whole year. God. But we've done what we could. We kept our spirits up. I tried to keep the spirits of my students up. I tried to keep reiterating that there's going to be wonderful things to come. Well, what happens if the Metropolitan falls? I said, well, if that were the case, others will rise from the phoenix and get stronger. I remember when we no longer went to Atlanta touring with the Met, the Atlanta Opera grew
Right.
and became, I said, look, okay, that was a good thing that we did. The tour was difficult because some of the companies, some of the guilds, it was difficult for them to find the money to finally pay for everything, and it cost quite a bit of money. But they were wonderful. In those days, it was wonderful because the camaraderie of you with your chorus, with the orchestra, with the crew, with the stage crew, everybody, you just always, you saw people, you knew when you had parties with them. It was a wonderful thing. It was very personal, it was really very personal. I don't know what it is now because I'm not there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm incredibly happy doing what I do. You're asking me, did I enjoy singing more than doing film? No, because I love the process. Maybe it was because on Boardwalk we had a cast
Well,
that was, and a crew. We'd wrap on a Friday, everybody went out together on a Saturday or a Sunday. It was like, and when we saw each other, it was like we hadn't seen each other in years. It was that, and that I think carried across. That
Absolutely
carried
agree.
across onto the little screen. And so it was Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi was the prince. He was the king of the crew. He really did. I even called down here to say, why don't you invite Steve to be Bacchus? He'd have a great time. And I said, and his and the little guy next to him helping him could be Eddie Kessler, yours truly. And I said, throw those doubloons like this. I'll show you how to do it. So that fell into the pit.
well, I will tell you that having watched every single one of those shows when they came out, I was glued on that show.
It was
and
so
you could
good.
definitely tell it. And
Yeah.
and I don't know if people who aren't involved in this really realize that the family that a cast becomes.
Yes. Oh,
I mean, there's such an emotional trust that you have to build with each other,
you have to.
or the audience will know it.
Yes. Oh, There's no question about it. I'm starting to see it, and here we are, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days,
4 days.
and I'm seeing this happening, and it's really exciting. I mean, it's really exciting. And once the scripts are out of there, some people are out off book, others are still back up. But once those scripts get out, hopefully by Saturday, it's going to be. I think it's going to explode. I would love people to want to come back because they laughed so much that they missed some things. That then they talk to somebody, oh, did you see what no, I missed that. You think I can get another ticket? And then we can run a third weekend.
Just got to sell them out and we'll be there.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's really fun. There's fluff, but there's a moment when Tito realizes he's confused. He doesn't believe what he sees, and it's touching. Then, of course, somebody says something absolutely hilarious, and then we get out of it again, you know. But it's I'm trying to make it as real as possible, and yet comedy is so difficult to direct. It's very difficult because. Case in point, we were working a bit last night that the gentleman did it, my actor did it, and it was good. I said, but it's not natural. The comedy has to come from something not unnatural in the sense, but something that you don't expect. Excuse me. When you see that, you say, Dick Van Dyke taught me that.
Okay. Nice.
When what you don't expect happens, well, that's funny, but there's a lead up to it. And so when he finally started to figure it out, he's thinking and thinking. And when he did it, it was perfect. It was perfect. It was subtle, yet it was strong. So it's hard to balance those two things. It's the timing. Doors opening. Somebody's behind the door and gets hit. Doors close. Where are you on stage? Did the audience see it? Did the audience not see it? What's happening when they're supposed to see it? Provocative situations. You angle those. One's looking through the door. Tito sees his wife doing something that is not what he thinks she's doing. And he's getting crazy and it's not that. But so the audience, I'm trying to always think of how the audience is going to understand this. Are those movements like this? So your head's going and you don't know what's going on, or is it here? And then you see it. You say, "Oh, I understand that." So that's gaining the trust of your act. So, but in a sense, it's not natural, but it is because there's not just one person on stage. There are 2 or 3 people on stage and props. So what you do with a glass, we don't see that. Terrific for film. You could do whatever you want. Camera gets most of the angles for you, and you can take it normally. You don't have to think about acting. You just read and be the individual. Well, I'm trying to get that across here. Don't have to act. Just be this particular character, how you think, and then how I see it, and then how I say, maybe a little bit grander hand movement, maybe a more heroic stance, maybe an eye, just those little things. And then a character develops. And then after the dress rehearsal, an opening night, I watch and go to the bar.
Boy.
Or stay at the bar and buy drinks for people. Anthony, hey, you want a drink?
Well, let me ask you, I always ask this for everybody, and this particularly poignant with you with your foundation. What would you tell a young person who is thinking about following in your footsteps today?
Technique. Technique not only gets you working to sing, how to sing, how to lower, to do everything that you do naturally when you're sleeping, and how to be free enough to do that on the stage. Because even if it's sort of a voice, and you work, and perfect example here in New Orleans was Harry Thayard. He left here, the voice was not great, but that man worked. He had chutzpah. He knew what to do, and he worked and studied and studied. Had his own audition at the Metropolitan Opera. He walked in, got an audition there, sang, and Rudolph Bing hired him. Had a fantastic decade-and-a-half career. He built his own, came back here, and Arthur Cosenza, God rest his soul, because he said to everybody on that stage, when we were doing Manolesco, he said, Harry Thayer is back with us after many, many years. He's back to his hometown to sing. And I was one that said he would never have a career. And here he is from the Metropolitan Opera, ladies and gentlemen, Harry Thayer. I thought that was a wonderful moment. That he said that and admitted. He said, that's wise, and I always remember, you can't say one thing about another singer. You're not going to have a voice. You're not going to have a career. You're this, that, or the other. The technique, I know I go tangents, but the technique is important because it establishes in you your personality. The most wonderful and remarkable thing, aside from childbirth, is that our instrument is here. Therefore, it relies on our emotions, our digestive tract, everything that functions in our body is responded here in the throat with those little tissues. No cartilage, no bone, just those little bitty tissues. So that when the technique, you become secure, you feel solid. The more solid you feel, the stronger you are, the more you can give, and the less you have to try to act. Because when you incorporate your technique into movement on stage, just one of the things we work on it quite a bit, you all of a sudden feel very secure, and like whatever happens, you accept it and you go on. Right? You know. How many times did Michael Jordan miss? But he forgot it. Yep. And he went on and he went up. So, you know, all the bats, all the home runs that Babe Ruth hit, he hit a hell of a lot more outs than he did home runs. But we remember the home runs, of course. Well, and you figure there's no muscle. Your muscle is here, abdomen, diaphragm, how it works, how the bellows work. The technique is the thing. So the thing is this: study and work technique until your teacher, and pray God you have a teacher that is intelligent enough and wise enough to guide you and say, you're not ready yet. But I want to go sing now. The great Farinelli, years and years worked with his teacher and did nothing but scales and roulades. 3 years. And he said, Maestro, when am I going to learn an opera? He pulled out a score and he played it. He said, sing this. He sang the whole opera on roulades and the whole. But I know that you know many operas now, my castrato, you know. So it's patience. Patience.
Very good.
It's patience. It's being patient in a time now when none of us are patient. It's that, and if it needed to be before that, you know. Well, I want it now. I want it now. Everybody does. I'd need $250,000 right now. But I'm going to be patient, and I'm going to ask. And if they say no, that's okay. I'll go to the next person. I truly believe, because it's Alpha, the letters, Anthony Laciura Foundation for the Arts, I dedicated it to the Alpha and the Omega. I dedicated it to God, and our logo is the three-pointed, the jester hat with the little balls. So I say, well, there's the Trinity.
There you go.
So I really believe that, and I know that, we have to work. God helps those that help themselves. Right. No, but I'm not sitting back on my, whatever's left here, waiting. We're dying to give you $150,000.
So many of those out there. Right.
Yeah, it's very difficult for young people. Patience, technique, that's it, no matter what. Then when you get availability or the advantage to do things within the realm of what you can sing, then go out and do stuff. Yeah, do weddings. Sure, you get something like Robert is doing with his group. They were at That Dog, you know, doing classical music, so that you're out performing. And it's very good. This is great. I did everything when I was here. For as long as I could, I did everything that anybody. It was interesting because so few of my colleagues, when I left New Orleans in '79, ever had sung with an orchestra. I never sang without an orchestra except for opera workshop at Loyola. But everything else, New Orleans Symphony with Werner Tokanowski, the Pops, everything, opera company, you know, everything was with orchestra. Even when we did little things, was with orchestra, a little pickup or something, you know. So it was kind of interesting to have gone from New Orleans. Where's New Orleans? Well, I know where New Orleans is now, but it took quite a long time, you know. So it was, I'll tell you, one of the greatest moments of my life in New York on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera was my first year there, when my first radio broadcast was Tales of Hoffmann doing Spallanzani, not the Four Servants. And I knew when I came out from my bow, Peter, oh God, forgive me. Anyway, the announcement would be, and here's Anthony Laciura making his radio debut. Anthony is from New Orleans, Louisiana. And I knew when all those people were applauding and I was doing a bow, I knew the people listening from New Orleans heard that. And I was very moved and extremely happy because I remember when Johnny Alexander canceled Hoffmann, living here in New Orleans, and Harry Thayard went on for him before he made his debut on that Monday performance. His debut was Men on a Score, but before that he did the Hoffmann, because Johnny Alexander, which hardly ever got sick, so he made his debut, and there was a whole band. He's from New Orleans, Louisiana, and my mother-in-law sitting there, and we were applauding it. And I remember that, and I thought, when I was born, that's what he's saying now about me. Amazing. Isn't that great? I just thought that was wonderful. I wish every student that I taught, every actor that I get to work with, would get to the point where they felt so thrilled about what they're doing, that it's such a blessing, that it's such a gift, and that yes, you have to work hard, and it's incredibly disappointing. But if you stay with it, some wonderful thing will come from it. Some good will come from it. Now everyone's asking, well, and I have some tremendous voices, what are we going to do? So you're going to keep studying, and you're going to be patient. That's what you're going to do. Well, Anthony, I don't. So you can cry all you want, and that's okay. That makes you feel good. But you're going to hold in. If you don't, it's okay. It's okay if you want to. But if I were you, I would hold on until everything gets better and then make a decision. Because you can't make an emotional decision, which is very difficult for us.
Right.
Because we live emotionally. Our voices are in our body. It's an extension of our emotions. So it's hard for these young people, especially with these great voices, that, well, I can't hire that person because they're young, they don't have the experience. Oh, well, that person at 33 is too old for the young artist programs that we know. And we don't really can use their voice. That's not a Mozart voice. I said, well, maybe it's, I said, okay, I don't want to go into a dissertation with what is or what isn't. So all I know is Tucker sang a hell of a wonderful ferrando.
Yes, he did.
In Così. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Well, I am very glad you're here. And
So am
I.
I.
Can't wait for this show. It's going to be a great show.
I pray to God that it will
It's got a great cast.
Absolutely.
Got a great director.
Well,
There you go.
he's there. He's a little obnoxious, but he's there.
There you are. And we open April 9th. April 9th at JPAC.
Yes.
And anybody who wants tickets, you can go on to our website at jpas.org and get your tickets today.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much,
Get them
Johnny.
today.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Tom.
My
It was
pleasure.
wonderful.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
Thank you.